The first law of economics is supply and demand, and we've seen this play out in the housing market the past 3 years. The bigger the demand and the smaller the supply, the more we see pressure on home prices rise. But is there a change coming? Is there something going on in the market that would shift the extreme seller's market we've experienced? Is there a lot of inventory coming in the marketplace anytime soon? Should you hang in there to buy a house this year? Are changes in supply and demand enough to change the market and your chances of securing a home? We know that buyer demand is being slightly tempered right now because of higher mortgage rates and higher prices. That said, we cannot discount the fact that a major shortage of housing and overwhelming demand has greatly contributed to sellers' market the past 3 years. Therefore, in this masterclass, I want to do 3 things. Number 1, help you understand the housing demand and share with you the truth about housing supply. Number 2, give you my thoughts on the quote, housing crash, or the quote, market slowing down philosophy. And then number 3, give practical advice going into the end of the year and next year. A very special thanks to Barry Habib and MBS Highway for gathering this data. I want to start this presentation by taking a look at the demand side. The way we look at demand for housing is by looking at households being formed. So what is a household formation? Well, let's break down these 2 words. Household, in simple terms, is a group of people living together. It can be 6 roommates, a 4-person nucleus, plus a grandmother, or a young couple of 2. Formation means one or more of the categories or groupings listed above. The best example is this. If someone leaves their parents' house to go out and get their own place, whether it's buying or renting, that is a new household being formed, right? The distinction, however, over someone who is just selling their home and moving is that these people don't have a home to sell. So they're occupying a new property without relinquishing one, without selling one or leaving one behind. Therefore, they're absorbing the supply, and this is where the demand comes from, via household formations. In the US right now, 1.4 million households are being formed. That's a pretty significant number. And if you look at that historically, this is your COVID up and down right here, the household formations is relatively high. In fact, it's above the average, as seen in the green here. It's a pretty significant number, and we're still seeing household formations increasing. But why does that matter? Well, the demand of homes as measured by household formation plays a role in the supply. But as we look at supply, it is important to understand how supply is calculated and where it comes from. Believe it or not, supply is not measured or comes from existing individuals who live in a home, because as they sell their home, they need to buy a new property, right? Keeping inventory and supply neutral. Simply put then, supply actually comes from new constructions. Now, many folks look at housing starts when calculating the new supply coming into the marketplace, which is logical, but the math is actually flawed. Let me explain. If you look at housing starts, which are currently at roughly about 1.7 million, you have to take into account that every year, about 100,000 of those homes get destroyed, retired, or replaced, leaving us, by this calculation, with 1.6 million homes started. The math would suggest that after taking the 1.6 million in new supply coming to the marketplace minus the 1.4 million household formations, there's an apparent surplus of roughly about 200,000 homes in the marketplace. Yet, so many people are still seeing some level of competition for homes and having to pay more for a unit. So what's the flaw here? If you look at housing starts like most people do, that actually includes properties that just broke ground, right? You can't move into that yet because the properties are not ready. Take my in-laws, for example. They're building a home to move into and the project just broke ground. It won't be delivered for at least another year, right? Therefore, this is not an accurate measure of supply. So if we don't want to look at the starts, what should we look at then? Well, when it comes to new construction and new supply, we actually want to look at housing completions because those properties are move-in ready. And if we analyze those numbers, we notice an interesting data point. Let me show you. There are currently 1.3 million housing completions in the US, and similar to the math above, if we subtract those destroyed every year, 100,000, that leaves us with 1.2 million housing completions. We take 1.2 million from the household formation of 1.4, and that data points to a shortage of 200,000. Even though the supply is already very, very low, it's actually getting worse at 200,000 fewer homes in the demand right now. And this supports higher home prices in the marketplace in the years to come. Even if we were to reverse and get 200,000 more homes built, there's such a big deficit already in the marketplace that we're almost likely 2 million homes short from equilibrium right now, right? Therefore, it will take at least a while to eat into that and thus continue the shortage situation for at least the next 3 years. Now, what about existing homes? Well, as you can see by this graph, and when you look at existing home inventory has been decreasing through the years. And if you look at this year, the graph shows that about 1 million homes were on the market in the spring. And some people are wondering, well, what's going on with existing homes and why are more properties coming into the marketplace? Doesn't that affect supply? As you look at the graph, you will notice that this happens every single year in the spring. And the reason is school. Think about it, right? Parents are conscious of the school season and would prefer if their child enters a new school at the beginning of the year so that the kids have an easier time adjusting to their new environment. Well, to do that, they have to close on the new home during the summer months, which means that they will have to shop for a new home and sell their existing one in the spring. That is why that period of time is called the spring home buying season, right? Now, when you take a look at this graph, every year you see a similar pattern, except notice the trend. The highs were lower than normal, and the lows were also lower. So it's very natural to see this inventory build up. But there's actually more to the story, and this is where it actually gets really interesting. The million home for sales is actually technically considered inventory, but the question should be, what is counted or considered inventory, right? Well, the inventory number in the previous graph, 1 million homes, includes those already under contract. In other words, the inventory number includes properties that already have a buyer for the house and are simply just waiting to close. Last spring, right? Homes under contract accounted for roughly about 60% of the 1 million homes in the inventory. Therefore, one would argue that the inventory number was a little off because if someone was already shopping for a home, they would not be able to buy a house that already has a buyer under contract, right? Leaving these prospective buyers fewer options to pick from. As a matter of fact, only 400,000 homes in this entire country to pick from. In a country with a population of about 330 million, with about 130 million households. To give you context and to illustrate this further, here's what 400,000 homes looks like historically. I mean, it's very few, right? Homes were selling very, very quickly in early 2022, but was there a lot more inventory on the market? The answer is no. A little more inventory maybe, but from the lowest point ever, there was only 33,000 more active listings nationwide. Now, it's typical to see an increase of inventory during the spring home buying season, but we didn't see a huge rush of inventory in the marketplace. Now, obviously, we're talking about national numbers here, right? So every real estate market is a little different, but by and large, there's a lack of supply across the entire country. While demand is decreasing because of higher interest rates and home prices, it's not enough to support a major drop in home prices. There's still enough buying activity to support prices going up. Although we might not see the double-digit home appreciation rates we saw in recent years, you might see sellers actually respond with more realistic listing prices, but we also won't see dramatic drops on a year-over-year basis. Another reason we won't see dramatic drop in prices is vacancy rates, which are very, very low. Now, why is that important? Well, think about it. When a home that you're selling is vacant and you purchase a new home, you carry the cost of both mortgages, insurance, the taxes, and all the maintenance. It could be several $1,000s every single month. So if the property's not selling, right, lack of demand, it's easy to justify in the back of your mind and say, you know what? Let me just drop the price and get rid of this first property because the carrying costs are killing me, right? This will obviously result in a major price reduction. In 2007, we actually saw this pressure on homeowners, and vacancy levels accounted for 3.2% of the entire housing market, which is extremely high. These clients were strapped for cash and needed to sell their homes very quickly, right? Their vacant homes very quickly. So they dropped the prices, sometimes even below their remaining mortgage on it, a contributing factor to the housing crisis. However, in contrast, take a look at what we are today. Vacancy levels are at historical lows. 0.8% this year. So there isn't an incentive to have major price drops and unload properties because we still have demands and properties are moving. In closing, overall, we expect demand for residential housing to remain steady this year and next, especially if mortgage rates drop in Q4 of this year or Q1 of 2023 as we predict. The housing market will remain healthy and it will not crash or burst as some are calling it. There's just no evidence for that. My best advice then is to work with professionals, real estate agents, financial advisors, who stay abreast of market trends like the one we discussed today. Professionals that have a solid strategy and plan in place so buyers can move when the time is right for them. Not necessarily when the market balances back in the buyer's favor, because truthfully, it may be several years before we see any type of equilibrium. As always, we really do believe that the future is bright and that every consumer deserves the best price and the best advice for all their mortgage needs. Thank you so much for tuning in. See you next time.